Welcome, and today we're reacting to things. Let's start with this. Undertale, by the way. So let's see how this one works. How do people do this? This is not me, but I'll take whatever people do. Where are Turi conducting Alphas? I probably remember what fucking it. Well, they hate me now. Like, I feel like I pronounced his Sam's lines wrong. Okay. At least Paps forgives you. Even me, okay, anyways. Reacting to Down to the Bone. I'm enjoy reacting to that video. I don't know, man. What? Is that Frisk? I don't know who the girl in the green thing, but I know who the Paris is in Frisk and Sansons. Oh, the other ones I'm still reacting to them. See y'all. I totally meant the thing more but I think it happened siblings. Oh god. How did they get here? I don't know.
Sans? Sans, wake up!
What is it, dude?
A human has fallen from the surface world!
Really?
You got a bone to pick with him?
No time for puns!
Come on, that was a real rib tickler. Hey!
This video is already ruined.
Alright, here we go again.
Welcome to
What's
the
really
underground!
How was the fall?
If you wanna look around,
Give us a
Let's look at my
call.
Facebook.
we don't see humans often.
We're happy you just dropped in.
I'll be so popular when I show all the monsters what I just brought in.
Hey, Papyrus, mind your manners.
Can it, Sans? No time for banter!
Excuse my brother, he's a bit eccentric.
True.
You're just lazy and apathetic!
Call me what you
Oh,
want.
this is down too.
Another bad joke and I'm finished with him! We are monsters, the awfulest kind!
Mess with us takes a lot of spine.
This is coming in least favorite video. These jokes so much. Jokes are honestly funny. No one likes Sam's puns. It's someone else likes my jokes. That's it's mom, I think so. 16, so I'm 16. So.
The last line of the chorus is a pun!
Yep.
You imbecile! That was very clever!
Thanks, buddy.
You're stuck in the underground!
Thanks to the fall.
Good luck ever getting out!
Let's go too close. And that's my boss battle.
You could show mercy to us!
Or turn
I don't really care about that.
Is your heart full of evil?
Same.
I, the great Papyrus, challenge you to try getting by us!
That's the human with one
Oh
of your
god.
Brilliant, Sans, that will leave hippie funnels! I dare you to try a bite of spaghetti!
Smells like the creepy pasta's ready.
Stop it, Sans!
Seriously, Sans.
Sounds like someone's funny bone's broken.
Also, I know what the Atom siblings are, but I'm wondering what's the one in the green square? Sure. Oh, it's thinking you know Root. Okay, I don't even know what Root is referring to. Promise? Great, it's the weed. It has a real eye. Is that his face? I really hate that chorus. Well, Paris give a break. It's a cry. True. It's okay, like, true. It's kind of true, actually. Well, maybe. What is that? Yeah, I do too. If he actually kills that video a little bit. It's like, don't ask. Is that dumb? Yes, it is. Why are I like that? Sure, you can't. For a trombone. I've heard done that second pun late. Is it just I forget her name. I know who the girl with the red bow is, but I forget her name. And that's me. What's that? What's that? Like bag. Wait, how's the king your dad and how's the goat her their mom? Don't you dare say it. Well, that was a good. Hey, what's up, everyone? How'd you get up there? That's something I cannot tell. Why not? Virus? Okay, I didn't read some of his lines. Yeah. I would agree. You actually are wearing headphones, please. Here I am. I'm in my IC's apartment. Hiding from Pirates. Yeah, well, you're hiding from Pirates again. I'm actually hiding from Pirates again. Hello. Before this video ends, I shall see. I have some extras on your ex's clothes, by the way. I may use this substitute too in future videos. Nobody knows. Thanks for watching. Oh god. He found me. Okay, I'm gonna have to censor out the swear words. Thanks for watching, everyone. Now I gotta run for my life. Bye, everyone. Human raid. Well, guys, what's going on this one?
Why did you come inside? I'm in the middle of a class.
Okay, so we're talking about the beginning here, guys. If this would work.
Hi, my name is Eric, and I'm 30 years old.
Fake, but I don't
Before
care.
I tell you my story, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel to show your support for me. I'm a psychology professor at a college, but my job doesn't pay me enough to cover the expenses of my family, or more like the expenses of my wife. My wife, Amelia, has always been a bit extravagant with everything. She likes buying expensive clothes and accessories and goes out to shop her stuff every day. So even my salary as a professor wasn't enough to fulfill all her needs. I had no option but to search for another job. No, I wasn't quitting my teaching job. Rather, I needed to do 2 jobs. I got an online job soon enough, and just when I thought I wouldn't have to worry about things for a while, there was another tragedy. Because of some unavoidable circumstances, everything was closed down for a while and I had to conduct classes online. It was a bit of a hassle at first because neither I nor my students were used to it, and I had to set up everything at home for smooth conduct of my classes. I'd informed Amelia beforehand not to disturb me during my class timings. So, on the first day of the online class, I was teaching without any worries when suddenly someone started banging at the door. There was no one else in the house other than Amelia, so I knew it had to be her. "Excuse me for a second," I said to my students, and was about to get up from my seat when the door just burst open. And Amelia came in looking
just
very
looks
mad.
weird.
"Why did you come inside? I'm in the middle of a class," I exclaimed. She shrugged. "I was knocking for so long, but you didn't respond,
You
so
call
I
that
helped
knocking?
myself." She called that knocking? I heard some snickers from my laptop and turned around to realize that the mic wasn't muted. My eyes widened and I rushed forward to mute the mic, but Amelia blocked my way.
This
She
girl is
glanced at my
just
laptop and turned to me with a frown. "Why are you so eager? What's there to hide?" "Amelia, I was giving a lecture and you're interrupting," I said through gritted teeth. Sure. It's not like I wanted to do this." She rolled her eyes. "But there's no balance on your card. I went shopping with my friend earlier. And do you know how much embarrassment I had to face? Did you do it on purpose to humiliate me?" "Why would I do such a thing?" I asked incredulously. "You must have used up all the money. How can you blame it on me?" "Of course, you and your broke self are to be blamed."
Oh my
she sobbed.
god, this woman
I
is
took a
just.
deep breath. "Can we do this later? I'll give you a different card to use for now." Whatever. She made a disgusted face, then left. Wow. Just wow. I knew she had a tendency to be a bit childish and throw tantrums from time to time, but this was a new level even for her. I apologized to my students for the disturbance. I was expecting them to make fun of me or something, but surprisingly, they said it was fine and they understood. I sighed in relief and continued with the class. I talked to Amelia later and asked her not to do that type of thing again. She retorted saying it wasn't even a big deal.
Yeah.
I didn't expect her to understand, to be honest. She'd always been like this, not ready to listen to reason and just do as she pleased. I don't know why I still liked her so foolishly. The thought of ending things with her scared me.
That was
was
one
an
of my
option I
other
didn't even want to
girlfriends.
consider. So most of
And
the time,
in a
I just
different
let her antics
relationship.
slide.
Well,
And
actually,
I
a
actually thought she
little bit
would
after.
listen to me this time. But I
So-
was so stupid to think that. Again, during my next class, she barged in and started yelling at me. She didn't even let me mute my mic and stood in front of me. I'm getting tired of living like this, she yelled. Why do I have to suffer because you don't earn enough money? What happened now? I gave you all my cards, I exclaimed. Wow, and what do you think? That you're super rich and giving me your cards will solve the problem? She
Oh,
mocked, then turned to face the screen of my laptop. I held my breath. What now? She was definitely going to make a scene in front of my students. Look here, everyone. Your professor's not even able to afford simple things. Despite what he looks like, the truth is he's super broke, she said with a smirk. You don't want to end up like him, do you? Don't follow in his footsteps. There was absolute silence on the other side, and Amelia suddenly started laughing. It seems like you all need time to digest everything, she said, and then turned around to leave. I was so ashamed that I didn't even know how to continue anymore. I was about to end the class then and there when some of my students started speaking. Sir, no offense or anything, but your wife is too much. Yeah, she has no right to say such things about you, wife or not. And how
Sure.
can she disturb you every day, even after your repeated warnings? We don't blame you, sir. You don't have to worry. We understand your situation. Wow, I never would have believed that my students were so mature. They said they would support me no matter what. And even after that day, they kept sending me support emails. Anyway, I wasn't going to risk it anymore. I started locking my door while I was conducting class.
good.
Amelia could keep banging on the door, but I learned to ignore her, and so did my students. After a few days, she stopped.
Okay,
It was a
that's
bit weird because I knew her. She never gave up in such situations. She was definitely mad, so I prepared myself. But she grew quiet all of a sudden and stopped coming to my room altogether. Everything was peaceful for a few days, but one day, suddenly, a random video was played on the screen while I was teaching an important topic. I looked for the source to see that it was being done by an unfamiliar student. Then it hit me. It was Amelia. It had to be her. She had somehow joined the class and found this new way of disrupting things. I got a call from some of my students later. They said that they were suspicious that Amelia was somehow keeping tabs on my Zoom calls. Well, I figured as much. We can get rid of this problem for you, if you would allow us, a student offered. I didn't think much of it and said yes. After all, I was tired, and I didn't have the energy to deal with Amelia anymore. The next day, the female students in my class started flirting with me during the class hours. At first, I thought it was a joke, but soon I realized that this was their plan all along. They were doing this knowing completely
Really
well
well.
that Amelia was watching everything. And as if on cue, Amelia barged into the room minutes
Didn't
later
you
with a
lock
very
it, though?
scary expression on her face. Wow. As if it wasn't enough that you're broke, now you're cheating too? She fumed. Who do you think you are? Is this your way of getting back at me? If you hate me that much, then why don't you just leave? Get out. I don't want to see your face. What the hell? Cheating? I tried to speak calmly to her, but she wasn't ready to listen. At that moment, the best option was just to pack my bags and leave.
Isn't
And that's what I did. But I had nowhere to go. Just what the hell was going on in my life? How could my wife do this after everything I did to please her? Was I too much of a pushover? Surprisingly, though, my students were waiting for me around the corner. I gaped at them. What are you all doing here? I asked in shock. Sorry, sir. Did we cause too much trouble with your wife? A student named Skylar asked. We just wanted you to get away from that hellhole. It's quite clear she's too toxic for you. I couldn't deny their words, and honestly, I'd seen this coming. I'd been hanging on to the last thread of hope, but it was only hurting me. I had to thank my students for going to such lengths for me. They told me that they already had a room ready for me in the shared student building that they lived in. Could I be any more grateful to them than I already was? Though things weren't over yet with Amelia. After seeing her behavior, we were a bit concerned, so we decided to do some digging. Skylar told me, we're really sorry for interfering in your personal matters, but that woman is clearly not in her right mind. It's funny how she accused you of cheating when she's the one who's been fooling around behind your back. It felt like I'd been hit by a ton of bricks. What? What are you talking about? I asked in a shaky voice. Skylar gave me a grim look and handed over some photos. Those were photos of Amelia hanging out with some guy, and they were clearly involved with each other romantically. She's been pretending to be rich with all that money you gave her, Skylar said. That guy doesn't even know you exist. She's been telling him lies. I think he buys her expensive stuff all the time. That's why she hangs out with him. Wow, it must have all been so convenient for Amelia, while making me look like a fool all this time. Why did I ever love her? Don't you want to get
Don't
back
even
at her,
know
sir?
exactly.
Skylar asked. It
I
wasn't
wouldn't
about
want
revenge
to
or getting
be
back
with
at her.
someone who's
I
childish.
didn't want that guy
I mean,
to fall into
not
her trap.
too childish like this
That's
person.
why I decided to expose Amelia's truth in front of him. I found out from my students that she'd asked that guy to move into her house, more like my house. She must have thought that I'd never bother her again. Well, good for me. She gave me an opportunity. I went to my house and let myself in through the spare key. Amelia was out to bring her boyfriend. I made myself at home and waited in the living room with the divorce papers in front of me. Half an hour later, I heard footsteps coming towards me. They were here. Amelia was talking animatedly to him, but as soon as she saw me, her face went pale. What are you doing? She stuttered. I shook my head. Is that how you're going to welcome your husband? I'm a bit disappointed. What? Husband? The guy asked her in shock. Amelia started panicking. No, wait, yeah, but that's about to change. I cut her off, giving her the divorce papers. Please sign those and then leave my house. His house? Amelia, you said you were wealthy and you owned this house, her boyfriend exclaimed. I chuckled. Yes, she owns it.
In her dreams.
Amelia clenched her fists and started yelling at me for I don't know what, because I was too busy ignoring her. Her boyfriend asked her to return everything he'd given her to this point and left. Good thing he came to his senses soon. And as for Amelia, first she yelled, then she got tired and started threatening me, and in the end, she started begging. I gave her a pen.
Why would she try
Sign
something?
those papers, or I can make it even uglier by calling the cops, I said. I think she was taken aback at my tone, as I'd only ever behaved sweetly to her. But I'll be damned to still do that. Amelia signed with shaky hands and left. And for the first time in a year, I felt that a load had been lifted off my shoulders.
And then we're on this one. Oh. Woo. Yeah. You know, that's probably not a story. I'll actually repeat that story on my own time.
It's the so-called high school hierarchy. Hi, my name is Ezra, and I'm
I don't care if
25
these
years
stories are
old.
fake, by the way.
I'm
Guys.
going
I
to tell
think
you a
you
really
want to
crazy
actually tell me
story
in
of
the
how a
comments.
student of mine
I don't
tried to
care if
make a
they're
move
fake.
on me for some vain motives, and how I accidentally taught her a good lesson for a lifetime. So let me begin this story from the very beginning. I'm a high school teacher. You know, it's a tough job, considering I have to handle a bunch of teenagers who would like nothing more than to skip classes and cause trouble. The problem with my job is that along with the students, I have to handle the parents too, who are quick to come to conclusions about me and accuse me of stuff like not paying enough attention to their child, etc. Anyway, I'm used to it now and know pretty well how to manage them. But what irks me is the so-called high school hierarchy. The
And we're
nerds,
to school next year,
populars,
so let's
the
just
good
hope this
girls,
doesn't
and
work.
the bad boys. All the students are divided in these
We're
categories, and
gonna
they behave
according.
accordingly. It's pretty ridiculous how this system works. And as if that wasn't enough to do these things amongst themselves, they drag the teachers into it too. Yeah, I'm talking about myself. They made me a part of their ridiculous games and tactics. I mean, no, I wasn't an active participant. I didn't know anything about what was going on till the very end. So there was this girl named Alicia in the senior year. Unfortunately, she was in my class. I mean, don't get me wrong, but that girl always used to rub me the wrong way. And let me tell you why. Her intentions about me were not so good. She always used to wait after class for me, making up excuses, saying she had doubts, and she would corner me in an empty classroom. Well, after that, she always tried to make a move on me. I politely rejected her a couple of times and tried to explain to her, as nicely as possible, she was a student and should know her boundaries. But I guess she never got the hint.
I guess it's kind
When
of
cornering
true
me
that the
failed,
story makes
she
sense
started
because, I mean,
adopting other means to get through to me. She would
technically
often
she
leave
should know her
expensive
boundaries
gifts
because
on my
it's
desk with weird little note thingies, and, I threw them all away. Because of the gifts, I almost lost my job a few times when other teachers started suspecting me. Thank God that I had a good rep with the principal, and he believed my excuses.
Why
Now,
would
if you
you
think that I
assume
was
just
being
tell him
harsh
what
on Alicia
happened?
then, let me
Listen.
justify myself. First of all, I knew for a fact she didn't have any real feelings for me. I had heard some students whispering about how hot I was, so I guess I was some sort of valuable person amongst the students. It was a pity that this came from my looks and not my merit. As for Alicia, she was the typical queen bee in the high school hierarchy. So I was guessing it was some sort of accomplishment for her to get to date the hottest teacher in the school.
Okay.
Oh, and by the way, don't misunderstand me. I'm not bragging about my looks. It's just what I've heard from the students. Anyway, so that was pretty much about how Alicia kept trying to seduce me. I still didn't know her real motives at the time. I just used to think she was a teenager who had pretty messed up ideas of popularity and stuff. But one day, things changed. No, I didn't give in to her advances or anything. Things went beyond that. So basically, I'd stayed back in school after the classes were over to check the answer sheets of a recent test. Well, by the time I was done, it was pretty dark and, well, the weather had gotten pretty bad. By bad, I mean it started raining. And I had to catch a bus, which seemed impossible because I didn't have an umbrella. I stood at the entrance thinking of a way out when my eyes fell on a car which appeared out of nowhere and stopped right in front of me. I had a strong urge to roll my eyes when I saw that it was Alicia inside
Also,
the
how
car
did he not have
waving
an
at me.
umbrella or a car?
Was she stalking me now? I wouldn't put it past her.
Oh God.
But why was she so desperate? Didn't she have better things to do?
You
Why
can't
was
get
she
her
wasting
stream
her
because she's
time
a
on me?
student, but like
I
imagine.
couldn't help but grow suspicious of her. Like this was way out of line. The car window rolled down
True.
and she asked me to get in. I shook my head. It didn't seem right to go with her. Come on, sir, she prodded. I'm just giving you a ride home. The weather is bad and it doesn't seem like the rain is going to stop anytime soon. I thought about what she was saying, looked to the sky. She was kind of right. There were no signs of the rain stopping anytime soon. And there was no other way to get home. So I decided to take her up on her offer. It's not like she could do anything. I knew how to keep her at bay. So I got in the passenger seat, put on my seatbelt. Alicia started the car and started whistling a tune. I frowned at her. She had no manners about how to behave in front of a teacher. Do you know where my house is? I asked her. Oh yeah, I follow you on all the social media sites. And don't you remember? I sent you a gift once at your house. She said casually as if it was no
No
big
big
deal.
deal.
Stalker. I stared straight ahead, trying to
Sorry.
avoid any
Like say
conversation.
casually as if it was
But of
no
course,
big
she wasn't
deal.
having any of it. She kept
What?
trying to indulge me in small talk. Do you have a girlfriend? She suddenly asked.
Whoa.
That's none of your business, Alicia, I told her in a stern voice. How so? I've been trying to confess to you for so long now, she said, fidgeting with her phone in one hand. Please don't use your phone while driving, I said.
Yeah.
She placed the phone on the dashboard and gave me a sheepish look. Yeah, sure. So what was I saying? Yeah, so you don't have a girlfriend, right? Alicia, I am still not going to date you, I replied. Why? She almost whined. What's wrong with me? I'm the most popular girl at the school. All the guys want to date me. You're getting a golden opportunity. I've told you this already. I'm your teacher, I said incredulously. Why don't you understand? I only see you as my student. And I'm pretty sure you don't have genuine feelings for me. So cut it out, Alicia. What do you mean, not genuine feelings? I really like you, she said in defense. Were those gifts not proof enough for you? That's not how you express your like for someone.
Trust
I
me.
gave her an
It's
unimpressed
being
look.
someone who's left gifts
Those
in the
gifts
past.
don't mean anything to me. And if you really claim to like me so much, then let me ask you something. What do you like about me?
Ha! She
She
stuttered.
trailed off. You must have a reason for liking me, right? I prodded. Well,
This
everyone
teacher's
thinks
good.
you're hot, she shrugged. And I find you good looking too. I shook my head. See? You don't really like me, Alicia. You're just attracted to my looks. You care about what everyone thinks. You care about your image and status. Everyone thinks I'm good looking, so you think of me as some sort of prize that you need to win. It'll boost your status after all, right? That's not how the real world works. You're still a teenager.
And
You have a
I'm
lot to
technically a
learn.
teenager right now.
Chasing after popularity is not going to help you in the long run. It doesn't matter after high school and college. Stop, she almost yelled at me. You're saying ridiculous stuff that doesn't even make sense. Her eyes kept flickering towards her phone in panic. I sighed. It makes complete sense. I'm just trying to make you understand what really matters. These are shallow things that you're running after, and you're destroying your future with your own hands. What was your score on your last test? Her
Ha.
face became completely red, and she lied,
That
as
is
I'd
a-
expected.
Really?
Really, Alicia? I rolled my eyes. You're lying about your score to your teacher. I have all the marks. You've been flunking since the last 3 tests, since all this drama started. You should be focusing on your studies, not on your teacher's looks or what other people think. Why? She asked in a broken voice. Why are you doing this? I frowned in confusion. What do you mean? I'm just trying to make you understand. It would be better for you to give up the idea of dating me and start focusing on your studies instead. It will be a good investment for your future. You'll thank me later. You don't understand, she exclaimed. It's important for me to date you, or else everyone else is going to make fun of me. But oh well, you've already ruined everything. They're going to make fun of me either way. Are you happy now? What do you mean? Why will they make fun of you? I asked in confusion. No one even knows that we had this talk, and you don't have to tell them. I'm just trying to set you on the right path. You have lost. That's enough, she fumed. We're here. You can get out now. I shook my head. Arguing with her was pointless. I thanked her for the ride and got out of the car. When I went into the house, my phone started buzzing with all sorts of notifications. I checked them to find that many students had tagged me in an Instagram to some live streaming. I clicked on the notifications to see what the live streaming was. It was from Alicia's account, which only meant one thing. She was broadcasting our whole conversation live on Instagram. That explained why she was fidgeting with her phone and why she got mad when I reprimanded her. I read the comments. Almost all the comments were laughing at her for getting taught a good lesson. There were mentions about some kind of bet she'd lost. I did a little more digging to find out she'd made some kind of bet with her friends that she would win me over tonight and start dating me. Really? How immature could she be? Instead of getting to date me, she got a full-blown lecture from me, and now she was the laughingstock. I kind of felt bad for her, but I guess she had it coming with her attitude. She did the wrong thing, putting out a bet on me after all. What do you think? Was I too harsh with her? Or did she deserve it?
Yes, I'm gonna read that story on my own time, but I do have another story we can see. Hopefully this one works. One that I actually feel. Oh, God. Oh.
I was sitting in bed, wrapped up in a blanket with my girlfriend, Emma. We both had glasses of wine in our hand, and were feeling really romantic.
I'm not gonna
Emma
go
had
to
just
part
told me
2 because I
she's
know
1
that
week
part 2
pregnant
is,
with our
but I'm
baby.
not gonna go to it.
It was the best news of our lives. She came close to me and whispered in my ear, I can't wait to spend my life with you, David. I smiled and held her hand. And I can't wait for that, Emma. I love you.
Actually,
Say,
let's just skip
Hi
that.
everyone, my name's Bryn,
This
and
one's
I'm going
better.
to tell you how I escaped my father's patriarchal beliefs and even went beyond his expectations. Before I get into the main thing, you need to know the backstory. My father is a very traditional man. Very traditional. You can probably assume what that's like. When I was younger, about 3 or 4, my mom left my dad and me behind. She couldn't take his overbearing, what I say goes mentality. So she left. She wanted to take me, but if she did, she wouldn't be able to support the both of us, and we'd be in a worse situation than before. At least with my father, I'd have a roof over my head and food on my plate. My father quickly replaced my mom with some woman who he managed to pick up. She was nice, quiet, rather docile. She liked reading late at night and enjoys psychology. She doesn't bother herself with me, and I don't completely dislike her. If she wants to let my father lord over all she does, then whatever, let her. My father, or rather, my family, was loaded. My father inherited a company from my paternal grandfather. My stepmother has nothing to do with the company. Not like he would let her have any say in his company. I was set to go to college, and my father wanted me to graduate, but he didn't want me to do anything with the degree I earned. He expected me to marry some successful man and become a housewife. There's nothing wrong with being a house spouse, but it's not exactly my cup of tea, personally. In my freshman year,
Oh.
I majored in biochemistry, had a couple of breakdowns, but I made it through successfully. About halfway through my sophomore year, I met this one guy, Mason. Intelligent, attractive, the usual. He majored in mechanical engineering. He and I shared one general class, and that's where and when we met. I was pretty social, yes, but I wasn't as active in social circles as much. I kept focused on my studies, and at that point, Mason. I had no qualms complaining about my father. And while he did set expectations on my shoulders, he lorded over me like he does my stepmother. Somewhere along my junior year, after initially meeting Mason,
Injury pain? Owie. Get fast active with Monday 535 Injury Ice Relief Gel.
place. Ah,
I grew more interested in him, as more than a friend. It's high-key embarrassing to say out loud, but after living with my father for my whole life, the moment I met someone who was actually open to new things and more docile and gentle, especially of the male gender, it made me realize some things that aren't too PG-13, and so I'll gloss over that. I asked him if he was at all interested in going out with me, and he was like, yeah, I would love to. And things escalated from that. We officially started dating. I told my father that I was in a relationship, and he was like, good. Hopefully you can finally settle down. Unbeknownst to him, I had no plan to do that. One day, sometime during my senior year, I took Mason to meet my father. I'm not going to go into details, but in summary, my dad was like, gotta make sure you earn enough to provide for your wife and kids. There's a lot to unpack in just that short sentence. But Mason knew, while I had no intention of living up to his expectations, I also had no intention of telling him once I graduate, I'm going for my master's degree and my eventual doctorate. So he played cheeky with my father and was all like, I'll do my best to uphold my duty of the family provider and protector. While in reality, he couldn't hurt a fly without crying. Yeah, that's right. I'm the spider killer in my relationship.
oh
So when I
gosh.
graduated, valedictorian, may I add, Mason reached out for job opportunities, and I needed to make sure everything was in order for me. About 2 months or so after our graduation, Mason received a job offer all the way in Germany. I don't know the details, I only know what he told me. A small company reached out to him and wanted him to work for them. He wanted me to go with him, but there's a problem. I was in my early 20s, but even so, I couldn't do anything without my father's approval. After a while, it just simply got annoying. So Mason and I sat my father down one day and had a serious heart-to-heart discussion about our future. Together, to be specific. And my father was all like, and what will Bryn be doing? And Mason was like, she'll oversee the housework. As if I'll be a sick biochemist with an 80K salary a year. But he couldn't know that. Not yet, at least. My dad is kinda eloquent with his words. Like, if he insults you, he'll do it in a way that sounds like a compliment, but 2 hours later, you'll realize he called you an idiot in like 5 different ways. So, to summarize what he said in a simple, easy to understand way, make sure you stay the man and Bryn knows her place in the family. Which to some people would seem normal. Like, yeah, you tell them. Well, I don't appreciate that. And he's lived his life off the tailcoat of his father. Well, so have I, technically, but now I'm going off to work in my own way. But he allowed me to move to Germany with Mason, which is great. At least I don't have to deal with my overbearing father. The biggest challenge now was to adjust from American culture to German culture. So we booked one-way tickets to Germany and never looked back. We settled in Berlin, which was close to his original job opportunity. I also continued my studies there as well and managed to snag an internship at some local lab. So I was doing an internship while studying for my master's degree. My stepmom told me the smart thing to do was to go straight for my master's instead of waiting like she did. She does give useful advice when she wants to. Mason proved useful at his job, and so he has a stable, secure job there. I continued my internship to feel around that job area. Meanwhile, my studying was going pretty well, even though I was in a completely different country, one of which I wasn't very familiar with. They did their best to make me feel welcomed and like I was a part of them, which I appreciated. I was 25 when I graduated and got my master's degree. Mason was there to help support me through it all. I didn't contact my family back home. I may be okay with my stepmother, but I don't have her number or anything. My father's number is saved, but I rarely use it. To be fair, though, neither of them reached out to me either. Forget my biological mother. She disappeared a long time ago, and I think she prefers to keep it that way, in all honesty. I waited about a year before I decided to pursue my doctorate. In that time, Mason was truly excelling at his mechanical engineering. I managed to land a job at a research lab as an official biochemist. I wanted to make sure that job was stable before I even considered starting my PhD. That would take me years, 4 or more, depending. Mason and I both were earning well enough to buy a comfortable, well-spaced home. We weren't rich per se, but we definitely weren't broke. Now, everything was fine between then and my first 2 years of earning my doctorate. About halfway through my third, a small, almost unnoticeable sickness appeared. It wasn't anything life-threatening or newsworthy, but just
I really hate these ads. For those who don't know me.
just enough that it made people sick or uncomfortable. Kinda like the common cold, but less known and newer. So I was the one who technically made a medicine to combat it, or to lessen its symptoms. Because of that, my name sort of circulated around the scientific world, or the scientist world. It doesn't seem that complicated from an outsider's eye, but there really is a lot of work that goes into it. Please don't ask me to explain what I did, because honestly, I don't really know. Okay, I do, otherwise I wouldn't be a biochemist. But I have a weird mentality. You know how when someone asks you, how do you do that? When you're good at something, like games or whatever, and you can't really explain it, but you can just do it? Yeah, that's what I'm like. Through the years, I didn't hear a peep from my father or stepmom, but in all honesty, I didn't expect any. I did have the courtesy to send them some postcards that I know they'd enjoy, but they never answered. I stopped trying after the third one. Luck seemed to be on my side because I managed to complete my doctorate in a little more than 4 years total. I graduated and now have a PhD in biochemistry. After all of that, a research center back near my hometown reached out to me and wanted me to work for them. After looking into it and seeing its reputation, Mason and I both agreed that moving back to the US would be our next best move. So he turned in his 2 week notice, said goodbye to the friends he made, and he and I both moved back to the US. It was close to 8 years since we've been there. The first place where I wanted to go was my father's house. I don't know why, but I thought maybe having some closure at least would help our relationship. When I got to his house, I was very surprised to see a giant sign outside on the lawn that said foreclosed. My father and stepmother weren't there, and I wasn't aware that the house got foreclosed at all. Perhaps that's why they didn't respond to my postcards. Regardless, I had to give the research center an answer before the weekend was up, and me, not being stupid, accepted. So I worked there as a biochemist and oversaw the analysis of biological chemicals, hence my job. I was curious about my parents, though, so in my stead, Mason did a little snooping around on the internet and found something interesting. My dad's company went under due to inconclusive reasons, and because of the lack of income, my father was unable to support him and my stepmother. We managed to snag his current address and decided to meet him for the first time in years. They were both living in a small apartment that could barely house the two of them. From what I knew, he was doing a part-time job and she wasn't working. So even in a dire situation where you really do need two people to support each other, he still held on to his traditionalism. When we came face to face again, it was extremely awkward. Because he didn't have the privileges he once did, he had absolutely no idea how to take care of himself. He was barely making rent as it is. I extended my hand out to help him financially, or to at least get him over the hump. Mason and I surely had enough money to spare, but my father declined immediately. Rather vehemently, may I add. He was all like, I don't need Mason's money. And I was like, well, it would be my money, first off, and it would allow you to at least take better care of yourselves. He was all confused and was like, I thought you went to Germany for Mason's career. And that's when I kind of dumped the fact that I have a bachelor's, a master's, a doctoral degree, and a high-paying job as a biochemist in a research center. And his face when I said I had a PhD in biochemistry was priceless. I think, now that I'm reminiscing about it, I was earning more than my father was, actually. Only difference is I worked for that salary. 10 years, actually, if you add up my 4-year college, my 2 years of master's, and 4.5 years of
God.
PhD. Once again, though, my father rejected my offer to help him through this and told him it's his job as a man to get through this. I honestly didn't know what to do. Mason even offered to help, but he rejected his offer too. What would you have done in this situation? Would you insist on helping despite him turning you down? Or would you just leave, never look back, and let him see where his pride takes him? Leave your answers down in the comments below.
Honestly, I think he needs to learn that you need two people to make a relationship
Still
work.
thinking of replacing your windows? There's never been a better time than now.
Yes.
Canadian winters
Right.
are tough. Our windows...
Here we go.
She looked like she was alone, so I went to
Okay, I'm going back.
her. She looked... Hey, hi, my name's Kevin.
Nerd
I'm 21 years
power.
old.
Okay, I'm
I
not
have a
gonna say
really
that
interesting
anymore.
story
Okay,
to share.
that is actually
Before I
probably.
get into
I'm
it,
not sure if
don't forget
that's
to
offensive or not,
subscribe
but
to
I'm
the
just
channel
gonna
to
say
show your
it.
support to
I
me.
feel like it is.
My
I'm not
story
gonna
starts
actually.
from the time I met Emma, the girl I had a huge crush on. I knew her from my high school days. She was our neighbor for a few years, but I never got the chance to talk to her. Then, later, I found out that we had enrolled in the same college and in the same course. This time, I decided to approach her. I thought that I could at least try to become friends with her, but this was a big mistake on my part. I had no idea about what kind of person she actually was. One day, I spotted her in the campus cafeteria. She looked like she was alone, so I went to her. She looked at me with a frown. "Kevin, what do you want?" she asked. I was taken aback for a moment. She knew me? I had never expected that she would even know my name.
Yeah, you
Hey,
look confused, actually.
We used to be
You never
neighbors,
knew each
I
other.
said.
How would you know?
Do you remember? Yeah,
That makes no
unfortunately.
sense. If you don't,
She sighed.
like, why?
What? I asked in confusion. Nothing. What brings you here? I believe we've never talked. Do you need something? I shook my head. Since we're in the same classes, I thought that maybe we could do an assignment together. What? With a nerd like you? Oh, wait. Actually, that's a good idea. She suddenly smiled. I've heard that you score the highest grades. Yeah, but does it matter? I'm talking about an assignment. I said, we'll both have to contribute equally. Sure, she replied. I'll see you later then. Suddenly, I had a really bad feeling about this. I wasn't an idiot. I could see that she was quite rude in the beginning. And as soon as I mentioned assignment, she did a 180-degree turn. A few weeks later, I was sitting with her in a cafe. We were working on a project. More like I was working, and she was dozing off. Hey, Emma, have you compiled the data that I asked you to? I asked. She blinked a few times. Huh. What? Which data? I was supposed to do something? Yes, I sent you all the details yesterday. You were supposed to do those tasks before meeting me here today, I reminded her. But you're perfectly capable of doing it yourself, right? She laughed. This is a group project. Ugh, what is your problem? She suddenly raised her voice, grabbing everyone's attention. You've been nagging me since yesterday. Just because you're a nerd yourself, do you expect everyone else to be too? Can you lower your voice? You're causing a scene, I said calmly. And what you're saying is completely irrelevant to our situation. Did you think that you would make me do all the work and get the grades? Oh, God. Just how arrogant are you? She yelled. Are you seriously accusing me right now?
Well,
I knew
yes,
it.
actually, because it
Should've
makes
just
all
ignored
sense.
you like always. Do you know how shameful it was for me just because I was your neighbor? What are you talking about? I frowned. You were the loser and everyone used to make fun of you. But of course you didn't know that because you were always immersed in your books. And it was creepy when I saw you trying to approach me a few times. I had to change directions because of you. She gave me a look of disgust. That day, too, I would have never talked to you. But I took pity and decided to be kind. And look at you. How ungrateful.
You're supposed to be the one doing the work. You're supposed to be the one doing the
And
work
Emma
as
noticed
well.
this too. This only propelled her to continue with her theatrics. Suddenly, she made a sad face. I just asked for a little help in the project since you're so intelligent,
Yeah.
she sighed. But I had no idea that you were this rude and arrogant.
Oh,
I should have
God.
expected this. Once a loser, always a loser.
No.
And with that, she picked up her bag and made a dramatic exit. I clenched my fist and tried not to do anything that I would regret later. People were so crowded around me, snapping photos and recording videos. Some had even started calling me a loser. Of course, everyone believed Emma's story, and I was not in a condition to say anything to anyone. They were only going to turn it against me somehow. I packed my things and left the cafe. The next day, the video of the whole incident was circulating amongst everyone in my college. From the moment I stepped inside, I was getting judgmental glances and harsh whispers. These things made me wonder how old these people actually were. Don't even get me started on Emma's minions. They were the group who used to follow around Emma everywhere. And now, whenever they passed me, they would start yelling, "Loser!" and "Nerd!" Sometimes they even used to bump into me on purpose, or block my path for no reason at all. It seems like I was back in high school. Just how childish could they get?
I don't know.
I decided to
Childish.
ignore everyone and everything.
Dude,
It's
also
my
high
fault
school.
after all. I made a mistake.
I would be actually a little bit glad
If I had known that she had such a repulsive personality, I would have stayed miles away from her. But the damage was done. And my best bet was to ignore them and focus on doing what I did the best.
Study.
Study.
Hi.
They're making fun of me for being a nerd, right? Now, I really wanted to show them that it wasn't my loss. They were going to make their own lives miserable. And as for Emma, I already had something in store for her. After graduating from college, I went for the career that I was interested in. It was hacking.
Wow.
People may have called me a nerd for sticking to my books and laptop all the time, but this was what I actually loved doing. I had already gained a lot of experience during my college days, and after graduating, I became a certified ethical hacker. I started earning a lot of money, too. Most of the students from my college who had called me names were struggling to find jobs.
Well, I guess it's kind of their job.
It was satisfying to see them like that. I mean, they did waste most of their time in oppressing others, so they were going to pay for it one way or the other. Anyway, my main target was Emma, the person who started everything. I had noticed that she loved using social media a lot, and she often used to post pictures from her home. It was all to show off, of course, but good for me. She had made it easy for me to hack into her devices. I hacked into her phone and disabled her internet connection. After doing the same thing to all her devices, I hacked into her payment system and cards. They were all saved online, so I didn't have to do a lot of work. I cut off her electricity and water connection too, and disabled all the payment settings. Her bills would now appear as unpaid, and she won't be able to get the connection back. I was merely sending her back to the Stone Age with no internet and electricity. Since I needed to watch all the fun, I decided to spy on her through her phone camera.
Well,
The first thing I saw was her stunned face. It was super dark, and she had turned on a flashlight. She was making calls on her phone, but it seemed like no one could do anything to help her. A few hours later, her phone ran out of battery, and she couldn't charge it. The same thing happened with her flashlight and all the other electrical devices at her home. And in the end, she had to light up some candles. I couldn't stop my laughter. Her expressions were priceless. Confusion was replaced by terror now, and since no one was helping her, it seemed like she was about to have a breakdown. I started feeling a bit bad for her. But then I was reminded of the day when she insulted me in front of everyone. I may have not shown it, but I was on the verge of crying. What she was going through was nothing. Right now, Emma was completely helpless. I blocked all her cards, but in such a way that her bank wouldn't be able to find any fault with it. All her bills were unpaid now, and they weren't going to restore her electricity or water connection. She had to go out and buy drinking water for herself with whatever little cash she had. Her internet connection was cut off, and she had nothing to do all day long. I got bored of watching her staring out her window all day, or cursing the air, or muttering to herself. It felt like I was watching a bad horror movie. I let her suffer like this for a few days until she reached the verge of desperation. I decided to pay a visit to her. As soon as she opened the door, I pinched my nose. "It stinks," I said. Her eyes widened. "Kevin?" I smiled. "I'm surprised you recognize a loser like me." "What are you doing here?" she asked. "Wait, you can't come in. My house is not really in a good condition right now." "Neither are you," I remarked. "I'm supposed to be the loser here. Why are you playing that part?" She was speechless for a few minutes. Then, suddenly realization crossed her eyes. "Was it you? Did you do this? You're a hacker, right? Oh my god, did you actually?" I smirked. "Maybe, or maybe not. Either way, you don't have any proof. I'm bored now, so I'll restore everything. But I hope you learned your lesson. Nerds are not losers after all. The real losers are people like you who treat others like trash."
I mean, not wrong. I mean, it's not wrong. So, that is the story here. If you guys want to see me react to more and play the Plant vs. Zombies game, I'll be continuing it. And then we're done. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace out, everyone.